What if there was a move so powerful, so unexpected, that it made silence look weak? Yes, folks. What if I told you that silence isn't the final form of power? It's just the first step. What if the real shift doesn't come when you stop talking, but when you start becoming someone they can't even process anymore? What if I told you that today, right now, you're going to learn how to flip this whole dynamic in a way that doesn't just make them regret losing you, it makes them question who they even are without you? Well, my friends, that's exactly what today's video is all about. So do me a favor. If you've ever been hurt, rejected, used, or thrown aside like you never mattered, quick, press the like button right now and let's get into it. Now imagine this. You loved them with everything in you. You gave them the kind of loyalty people write poems about. You begged them, not out loud maybe, but in your energy, in your silence, in your prayers. You begged them to choose you, to stay, to try. You told them you'd fight for this. Maybe you even told them you'd build a life with them, live with them, grow old with them. And what did they do? They looked you dead in the face and treated you like an option, like background noise, like a puppet they could pull on whenever they needed comfort. And you stayed, not because you were weak, but because you loved them more than anything else. You gave them grace, you gave them patience, you gave them the benefit of every doubt. You cried for them when no one knew. You made excuses for their behavior, even when it cost you your dignity. You convinced yourself that maybe, just maybe, they'd change. But they didn't change. They discarded you like trash. And now, maybe they're living their life with some new shiny face, posting selfies, laughing in stories, smiling in photos, looking like they're winning. And you? You went silent. You disappeared. You pulled your energy back and told yourself, this is enough, this will teach them. But what if it's not? What if silence isn't enough anymore? What if they're comfortable with your silence? What if they've started using your silence as proof that you never really mattered to begin with? That's the cold, brutal truth most people won't say out loud. Silence, on its own, is not the power move anymore. Because silence can be misunderstood, silence can be manipulated, silence can be spun into a narrative that makes them the victim. But there is something stronger than silence, a shift so sharp, so precise, so psychologically calculated, that it doesn't just confuse them, it haunts them, not through anger, not through bitterness, but through evolution. You don't just disappear, you reconstruct. You don't just stay silent. You become unforgettable. And if that's what you're ready to learn today, if you're done being the one who cries in silence while they thrive in ignorance, then stay with me, because the next 8 moves I'm about to show you will change everything. Write this in the comments. Silence isn't enough. I evolve. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't look back. We begin right now. Number 1. Silence was the warning. Now comes the shift. Silence was never the finish line. It was just the warning shot. It was the sound of the gates closing, the soft echo of a storm preparing to make landfall. For a while, your silence made them nervous. They kept checking, watching, wondering if you'd break, if you'd reach out, if you'd crawl back into their world just like before. But the days kept passing, and you stayed quiet. No explanation, no reaction, just distance. That's when they started rewriting the story. They're gone. They've moved on. They're probably fine. Because, folks, silence is a blank page, and people will write whatever fiction helps them sleep at night. They'll call your pain peace. They'll call your healing indifference, and in their heads, they are still the hero. But here's where everything shifts, because the real regret doesn't start the day you stop speaking. It starts the day you stop needing. When your silence is no longer a pause, it's a transformation. They expected you to disappear. Sure, they just never expected you to evolve. See, most people are prepared for quiet. They're prepared for you to block them, disappear, cry in silence. What they're not prepared for is a version of you they can't recognize. Not angry, not chasing, not even interested. That's the part that unravels them. That's when they start questioning what they really meant to you, because now you look like someone who never needed them at all. And that, my friends, is the beginning of psychological dominance. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked past someone who once had your whole heart and realized they looked at you like a stranger? That feeling, that internal disorientation, that gut-level regret. That's what they're about to feel. Because this next version of you doesn't even operate on the same frequency anymore. It's not about being louder. It's not about being petty. It's about becoming unreachable, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. When they see you now, they're not just seeing a person who walked away. They're seeing a force they can't access, a light they helped dim, but now can't handle the brightness of. And don't be surprised if they try to come back, not because they've changed, but because they've noticed that you have. They can sense the difference in your eyes. You're not holding that invisible hope anymore. You're not waiting for an apology. You're not playing chess with your emotions, hoping they'll finally pick up on your worth. You've stepped into your final form. You've become someone who isn't trying to be chosen anymore. You've already chosen yourself. That's what shakes them, because the moment you stopped orbiting around them, the gravity shifted, the pull changed, and they're the one who feels off balance now. You were once predictable. They knew your soft spots, your timing, your pattern of forgiveness. But this new version, there's no pattern, no hint, no weakness to exploit. That mystery becomes their personal purgatory. They can't figure you out, and it drives them mad in silence. The same silence they once celebrated. They'll replay every moment, every ignored message, every time they said, "You'll never find someone like me." And suddenly it hits. You never needed someone like them. You just didn't know it back then. You see, in life, there's two kinds of silence. One is fragile, temporary, waiting to be filled. The other is powerful, permanent. It doesn't seek validation. It radiates completion. You've stepped into the second. And once you do, they can feel it, even from miles away. You don't have to send a text. Your energy sends the message. Your growth becomes the ghost that haunts them. Because now, every time they see someone that looks like you, laughs like you, moves like you, it won't be you. It'll be a reminder of who they can never reach again. So yes, you were silent, but now it's time to shift. Silence was just the chrysalis. What's coming next is your flight. You don't need to explain yourself. Your peace is loud enough. You don't need to show them what they lost. Life will. The universe will. The mirror they avoid will. That's the real revenge. And it's quiet, but it's permanent. And if you're wondering whether they even feel this shift, believe me, they do. They just won't admit it, because the moment they admit they miss you is the moment they admit they fumbled something irreplaceable. And their pride can't survive that admission. So they'll pretend, smile with someone else, fake it online, act unbothered. But folks, let me tell you something that Stoicism teaches. Real strength isn't in the noise. It's in the absence. In the ability to walk away from the battlefield without needing to prove you won. Because you did win. You're here. You're healing. You're evolving. You're becoming a chapter they'll never stop rereading in their head. And when they finally realize what they threw away, it'll be too late. Not because you were trying to punish them, but because you were too busy becoming everything they told you you couldn't be. So remember this, they might forget your words, but they'll never forget your growth. That's the kind of silence they'll feel every time they close their eyes. And now it's your turn to move in silence, but rise with thunder. Write this in the comments right now. I am the shift. Number 2. Destroy the old pattern without saying a word. Patterns, that's how they predicted you. That's how they manipulated the game. They studied your rhythm like clockwork. You text, you wait, you hope, you forgive, over and over, like a song they've already heard 1,000 times. A familiar beat they could dance to with their eyes closed. They got comfortable in your consistency. They knew when you'd break the silence, when you'd cave, when you'd come back with softness in your voice, and "it's okay" in your tone, even when it wasn't. But not this time. This time, you destroy the pattern, and you don't announce it. You don't warn them. You don't post cryptic quotes online hoping they get the message. You just stop following the script. You flip it so hard, it rattles their comfort. You replace instead of react. You elevate instead of explain. You don't block out of anger. You disconnect out of evolution. You don't chase love anymore. You become the source of it. That's when the ground starts shaking beneath them, because the version of you they had memorized no longer exists. That's when their nervous system wakes up. That's when the guilt can't hide anymore behind pride. Because, folks, nothing unsettles the one who took you for granted, like realizing they can't predict your next move. You want to talk power. Real power is when they're left on read, not because you're playing games, but because you've outgrown the whole conversation. Real power is when you walk past the temptation to re-engage and choose silence, not from pain, but from principle. Real power is when you make them question if they ever knew you at all, because now you're a mystery again, and mystery breeds obsession. Let me give you something real. A person doesn't regret losing you when you argue. They regret it when you no longer need to be understood. They regret it when you become unavailable, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. That's the heartbreak they never see coming, because they thought they had you figured out. They thought they could breadcrumb you back any time, but now you're not even looking in their direction. You're no longer reactive, you're responsive to your peace. You don't reach out to remind them of your worth. You live in a way that screams it, and that silence, it isn't passive anymore. It's loaded with intention. You're not punishing them. You're freeing yourself from the loops, from the trauma bonding, from the emotional addiction that made you believe love had to feel like survival. So yes, destroy the pattern, burn the old script, but don't say a word. Let the shift speak for itself. Let your actions haunt the version of you they thought would always be available. The one who used to answer at 2 a.m. The one who forgave betrayal like it was normal. The one who believed words without watching patterns. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer available. You are no longer their safety net. You are the upgrade they'll never qualify for again. Write this in the comments right now. I broke the pattern. And if this just cracked something wide open in your chest, press the like button and subscribe. We're going deeper. Stay with me. Number 3. Starve their control. Feed their doubt. Some people don't want love, they want control. They feed off your emotional highs and lows like parasites, thriving in the chaos they secretly create. And even when you went silent, they still felt fed. Why? Because your silence still had heat. It was angry, it was hurt, it was shaking, it still revolved around them. But not anymore. Now you've stepped into the most dangerous energy of all. Indifference, not forced, not faked, real, neutral, emotionally flat like winter wind. You don't flinch, you don't rage, you don't miss them out loud. And that is what starves their ego until it turns on itself. See, they knew how to trigger you. A delayed text, a story posted just to poke your feelings, a breadcrumb to keep you orbiting around the illusion of maybe. They didn't need to talk to you, they just needed to know they still lived in your mind, that they could still shake your world with a simple, hey. That's what kept them alive, that's what gave them power. But now there's no reaction, no energy, no residue of emotional dependency, just silence, and not the loud kind that begs to be noticed, the kind that doesn't even care if they're watching, the kind that's not hiding. It's just uninterested. And here's where the power flips. You see, when they realize you're not emotionally starving anymore, when they can't trigger a rise out of you, that's when their doubt begins to grow. They start wondering, wait, who are they talking to now? Why aren't they checking my story anymore? Why haven't they said anything about what I posted? And this doubt, it starts eating them alive. Because the moment they sense your peace isn't about them anymore, they panic. It's not about anger now, it's about freedom. You're no longer leaking energy trying to make sense of what they did. You've stopped needing closure from the very hands that caused the wound. You're not just gone, you've elevated into something they can't touch. And let me tell you something about starving their control. It forces them to sit with their own reflection. No distractions, no more energy to feed off. Just them and their own guilt, their own decisions, their own emptiness. Because the game only works when you participate. But now the board is flipped and they're left playing alone. This is how you become unforgettable. Not through noise, not through payback. Through calm, focused, detached evolution. Your silence is no longer emotional, it's strategic. You've learned the greatest Stoic lesson of all. Control only exists where emotion lives. And once you remove your emotion, they lose access to the entire game. So starve their ego, not by blocking, not by attacking, but by no longer offering even a drop of your attention. It's gone, and in its place is a version of you so self-possessed, they can't even look directly at you without feeling the weight of their mistake. Write this in the comments right now. I starved their control. Number 4, rewrite the emotional equation. You're not safe anymore. You were the soft landing, the gentle voice, the reliable soul, the one who showed up even when they didn't, the one who answered the message even when your heart was bleeding. You were the peace in their storm, the light in their confusion, the safe haven they took for granted, again and again and again. But here's what they never expected: the soft place can harden. And now, you're not soft, you're not warm, you're not safe in the way they remember. You're not the comfort zone anymore, you're the consequence. See, people get used to you being predictable, being available, being emotionally open like an unlocked door, and when they break your heart, they assume you'll just rebuild quietly and keep it open. But one day, you didn't. One day, you said nothing and didn't come back. One day, you stopped checking, you stopped reacting, you stopped being the version of you they used to manipulate. And that day, that's when their emotional equation broke. Because now your absence is louder than your presence ever was. Your distance is the new discomfort they can't numb. You used to bring them peace. Now, every thought of you rattles their chest. Every memory stings like a wound that won't close. You didn't just walk away, you became the silence that follows a storm. And nothing is scarier than realizing the person you once ignored now has the power to ignore you back without blinking. That's the shift, my friend. That's the transformation they never saw coming. You used to be the safest person they knew. Now you're the one they fear bumping into at the store, at an event, in a conversation. Because they know if they look into your eyes now, they'll see nothing, no longing, no sadness, no trace of the old you that begged to be loved. You are no longer soft for them. You are no longer the place they can land without accountability. And the version of you they're haunted by now, it's colder, it's sharper, it's wiser, and that shakes them. Because the truth is, they were never afraid of losing you. They were afraid of losing the power they held when you still believed in them. And now that power is gone. You see clearly. You walk lighter. You breathe better. You've rewritten the entire emotional formula. You are no longer a healing ground for someone who brought you harm. You are not their safe space anymore. You are the mirror. And mirrors don't lie. And let me tell you something powerful. When you become this version of yourself, they don't know how to handle it. They talk to people about you just to feel closer to what they lost. They replay your messages to hear how loved they used to be. They pretend to be unbothered, but every part of them is unraveling from the inside out. They don't understand this new equation because the person they discarded now lives without needing them. That's not peace for them anymore. That's punishment. And the worst part? You're not even trying to punish them. You're just free. Write this in the comments right now. I'm not their safe place anymore. Number 5. Let them watch you become the life they thought you couldn't live without them. You once looked them in the eye and said, "One day I'll get there." You shared your visions, your deepest hopes, the business, the move, the peace, the glow-up, the life you were dreaming of. You let them hear the tremble in your voice when you talked about wanting more meaning, more growth, more love, more everything. And what did they do? They smirked, or stayed silent, or maybe they nodded politely while scrolling their phone. They didn't believe you'd get there without them. They thought you were too emotional, too fragile, too soft. They thought you'd crumble the moment they left, that you'd sit in some corner of the world, endlessly missing them, unable to breathe without their attention. But here you are, breathing just fine, smiling like you've never smiled before, not because someone else came to save you, but because you saved yourself. You didn't just survive the heartbreak, you grew through it. And now you're walking through life with the very strength they told themselves you didn't have. That's the most beautiful, most poetic revenge. Not the clapbacks, not the blocking, not the silence, but the soft, slow, steady rise of someone who was underestimated. You didn't just disappear. You reappeared in your own story with a new cast, a new setting, and a version of you they can't recognize anymore. The same tears you cried into your pillow while they were busy loving someone else. Those tears watered your discipline. They built the version of you who doesn't dream anymore. They do now. You take yourself out. You decorate your space. You glow differently. You work with purpose. You move like peace and power have finally become best friends in your body. And guess what? They're watching. Oh yes. Don't let the silence fool you. They see it, the posts, the upgrades, the subtle details, the way your eyes aren't begging anymore, the way your smile no longer looks like it's trying to convince anyone to stay. That evolution they thought you couldn't do without their love. You did it anyway. And now they sit on the sidelines like a ghost, present but powerless. They're no longer the main character, just a shadow in the background of your glow. And the worst part for them, you're doing it all without ever throwing dirt on their name, without ever trying to prove anything. You're just being, and that just being is louder than any explanation you could have given. Because people don't regret losing you when you cry. They regret it when you rise, when your life becomes the very thing they thought they were essential to, when you hit the milestones they once laughed at, when the dream they didn't support becomes a reality they can only scroll past. And let me ask you this, what's more satisfying than seeing the ones who doubted you become silent fans of your glow? Not out of love, but out of loss. You're not living the life they said you couldn't. You're living the life they believed they were the reason for. And now, their name isn't written on any part of it. Not the peace, not the joy, not the breakthrough. It's all you. Write this in the comments right now. I became the life they never believed I could. Number 6. The return is cold, if it ever comes. Let's make one thing clear. If they reach back out, and they will, it's not because they had a sudden spiritual awakening. It's not because they finally grew a conscience. It's because the absence became too loud. The silence turned into a scream. The space you left behind started to echo in their chest, and what they once discarded with ease is now haunting them in the quiet moments. They'll send a message, something casual, something safe. Hey, just checking in, or saw something that reminded me of you. Translation: they felt the sting of your evolution, but when that message hits your phone, the game has already changed. Because you're not who you used to be. You don't respond with warmth anymore. You don't light up at their name. You don't lose your breath and fumble your words trying to sound composed while your heart pounds like a war drum. That version of you, the one that hoped, that waited, that melted at breadcrumbs, is gone, buried. And in their place stands someone they can't manipulate anymore. This isn't the return they remember. This is the cold wind that blows through a door they thought they could always walk back through. You might reply. You might say, "Hope you're well." But there's no softness in it, no vulnerability, just a calm, contained detachment that makes them question their whole decision. You see, folks, when someone throws away a diamond and comes back expecting to find it in the same spot, they should be met with nothing but the cold echo of their own arrogance. That's what real growth looks like. It's not loud, it's not petty, it's not full of clapbacks or performance. It's surgical, clean, controlled, because you don't owe them emotion anymore. You don't owe them access to your healed version. They chose their role, they wrote their chapter, and now they don't get to re-enter the story just because their ego is starving. The truth is, most people don't miss you for the right reasons. They miss the comfort, the control, the emotional supply you gave so freely. And when that supply is cut off completely, not just in silence, but in presence, they panic. But here's where it flips, my friends. When you give them the cold shoulder, when your reply feels like a stranger with no emotional residue, when you don't respond at all, you're not being mean. You're being aligned. You're showing them what it feels like to stand on the outside of your peace, to look through the window of your healed life and realize they don't live there anymore. They'll feel it in their gut, the regret, the confusion, the shame, but you won't be there to explain it to them, because you're not in the business of reteaching people how to treat you. You're in the business of evolving past the lesson. So if the return comes, let it be cold, let it be distant, let it be silent even, because your energy is now a locked vault, and not everyone gets the key. Write this in the comments right now. They don't get the new me. Number 7. You become the trigger in every room they walk into. You become the trigger in every room they walk into. And the wildest part, you're not even trying. They could be laughing, smiling, posting happy little moments with someone new. But the moment your name enters the space, their smile falters, their energy shifts. You live in their nervous system now, rent-free. Not because you chased them, not because you begged, but because you stopped, you vanished, and then you leveled up. Now your presence is everywhere they never expected you to be. Someone brings you up in conversation and their chest tightens. Your face shows up on someone's feed and they scroll faster, but not fast enough. They try to pretend it doesn't affect them, but their silence speaks volumes. Their new partner senses the shift, the tension, the name they won't say but can't stop thinking about. You don't even have to show up in person. You show up through whispers, through mutual connections, through achievements they thought you'd never reach without them. Every time someone says, "Did you hear what they're doing now?" It feels like a punch they have to swallow, because deep down they knew your power, but they never thought you'd tap into it without them. You haunt without haunting, because you didn't just go silent, you became a storm, a quiet one, the kind that doesn't make a sound but leaves everything rearranged. And now your growth is their punishment, not because you meant to hurt them, but because you finally chose to protect you. They walk into rooms thinking they've moved on. They think they've healed. But one reminder of you, the version they can't access anymore, is enough to ruin the illusion. You are the mirror now, not the soft mirror that gave them comfort. The sharp one, the one that shows them exactly what they lost, exactly what they threw away, and exactly what they'll never experience again. It's the little things that hit hardest, your voice in a song, your name in a group chat, a scent that reminds them of your presence, a picture they forgot they still had. Suddenly, it's not peace they feel, it's panic. Because no matter how many distractions they wrap themselves in, they can't wrap themselves away from the truth. They're haunted, and you're the ghost of their own decisions. So ask yourself, what happens when your very name becomes their emotional earthquake? What happens when your evolution echoes louder than any words ever could? That's the power of true detachment. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need to destroy their reputation. All you did was rise. And that rise, it's deafening. It walks into rooms before you. It sits on their mind at night. It lingers in the eyes of anyone who reminds them of you. They tried to erase you, but now you're the glitch in their reality, and no matter how many times they restart the game, they can't escape the fact that your memory was written into the code. That's what happens when silence becomes strategy, when growth becomes your response, when detachment becomes your revenge. Write this in the comments right now. My name will echo. Number 8. Your power was never in silence. It was in becoming untouchable. They thought silence was your finale, like you were done, like you'd faded into the background. But they misunderstood it all, because silence was never the point. Silence was just the cocoon, the stillness before the shift. The quiet place where pain turned into power and love, real love, started coming back home to you. And now you've become untouchable. They can't even picture you the same way anymore. The version of you they discarded, gone. The one they manipulated doesn't exist. The person they used to text at 2 a.m. and get a response from, vanished. All that's left now is someone so grounded, so elevated, so self-contained, it would take divine intervention for them to know how to even approach you. And they feel it. They feel the gap, not just in time, in energy, in presence. You're no longer part of their orbit, and yet your energy sits on their soul like a weight, because now you're walking in your purpose. You speak with intention. You move with clarity. Your life is aligned. Your peace is loud, and it's intimidating. Because let's be honest, my friends, what really scares them now isn't that you're silent, it's that you're thriving. It's not just the lack of messages, it's the abundance of confidence. It's the way you smile in your photos, not to prove anything, but because you're actually at peace. It's the glow they swore you'd never have without them. And now you radiate it effortlessly. They can't touch you anymore, not because you blocked them, but because you outgrew them. The conversations they used to control, you wouldn't even entertain them today. The arguments they once pulled you into. You don't have the energy, not because you're bitter, but because you're busy building, busy evolving, busy living. They could message you right now, and still the gap would be too wide. Not because you're cruel, but because you've reached a frequency they can't fake. You've become a woman or a man who knows their worth so deeply, no amount of breadcrumbs or sweet words could ever shake you again. That's not revenge, that's arrival. See, real transformation doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, it doesn't need to prove a thing. It becomes. It detaches so deeply that the past doesn't sting. It simply teaches. And when they realize they're no longer even capable of hurting you, that's when the real regret begins. Because now they know they lost something rare, and no matter who they're with now, no matter how good it might look online, they know this: they'll never again be in the presence of someone like you. So let them scroll, let them stalk, let them feel the cold truth that your power was never in your silence. It was in your evolution. It was in the quiet building of a life they can't enter anymore. It was in your arrival into yourself. You didn't disappear. You became unrecognizable. And now they don't know how to speak your language anymore. Write this in the comments right now. I've arrived. I'm untouchable. Press the like button if you felt that. Subscribe and stay with me, because this journey, it's just beginning.